section 2.4 is on writing linear equations, and so what we need to do is review what we've learned about equations of lines in the past, and what was standard form. If you remember, we learned that in section 2.2. What was standard form of the equation of a line?
AX plus BY equals C.
AX plus BY equals C. Good. And so that was one that we need to file away to memory. When you take the NISA test, this is in fact on the NISA test, the standard form of the equation of a line. The nice thing is they do give you like a reference sheet, and that is still on there. But understand that A times X plus B times Y equals C. What do you know about A, B, and C as well? They're all integers. Okay, so now today we're going to learn about another form of a line, and that's the slope-intercept form of a line. You've heard this before. Y equals mx plus b. M we know is the slope. B is the y-intercept. So review again, the y-intercept is where it intersects the y-axis. Okay, so we need to file away the slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. We're also going to learn about another form called point-slope form today. So slope-intercept form has the slope and has the y-intercept in the equation. So let's go and look at an example. It says on this example, write an equation in slope-intercept form for the graph. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the graph and I'm going to see, do I know the y-intercept? Do I know where it intersects the y-axis? Up here at 6. So there's half of my answer, believe it or not. Because if you remember, the equation in slope-intercept form was y equals mx plus b. And so I have now just found b. I have found that b is 6. So now what I need to find is the slope. So you did this when we learned about rate of change in slope. I need to find another point that this line goes through. What would be another point it goes through? And so now between those 2 points, I'm going to find the slope. So I'm going to find the rise over the run. So the rise, I know from here to here, goes up how many? 4. Now be careful because, see, these are by 2's. So really the rise would be 4. Divided by the run here is, what's the run going to be? 6. So I've got 4 over 6, which is 2/3. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 2/3 down here for m. I'm just going to go ahead and attach an x, and that is your equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, we found the y-intercept, and we found the slope. Questions? Let's look at another one. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line described. Okay. So first of all, slope-intercept form, once again, y equals mx plus b. What do I know from the get-go? I know the slope. And what's the slope? 4/3. So here we go. I've got 4/3 x. Now I need to know the y-intercept. Ideas? Look at how this is written. This is the y-intercept. If you were to plot that, that's going to be on the y-axis. So they've disguised that as a point, but it's nothing more than the y-intercept. So I could write this as plus -4. I could write it as -4. Either of those is acceptable. So I could either write that as my equation, or I could write this as my equation. Either of those is acceptable. Questions? Let's look at this one. So do I know anything in this problem? I know the y-intercept, and the y-intercept here is -6. Good job. So how do I find the slope between those 2 points? Okay, so slope, remember the slope formula. I'm going to take 10 minus -6. So 10 minus -6 divided by Negative 4 minus 0. So let's go ahead and calculate that. 10 minus negative 6 is 16 over negative 4, which simplifies to negative 4. Good. So my equation, y equals negative 4x negative 6. Good. Now here's a little tidbit of information. If, come like test time, or if on your homework, you're struggling with these 2-point ones, another option to do is graph those and then do those the same way we just got done doing the previous example. So if you were to graph those 2 points, all you would do then is find the rise over the run. You would count boxes, and you could solve it that way as well. All right, so now we're going to talk about a second form. So we've got standard form, slope-intercept form, and now we're going to deal with point-slope form. Point-slope form, used when you know a point and the slope, or it's used when you know 2 points. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And below that I tell you that m is the slope and x1, y1 is the point. Now what I'm going to do eventually, okay, probably tomorrow or Monday, I'm going to give you a handout with all of the forms of the equations of the line. And it's going to go through and it's going to show you each of the characteristics of the line, and it'll be a reference guide for you. So we use slope-intercept form when I know the slope and what? The y-intercept, right? Point-slope form is now for when I'm dealing with a point and the slope. Now, this point-slope form is very easy. Okay, it's actually one of my favorite forms. And for those of you that ever gone to take an advanced math, we will use point-slope form a lot. So let's go ahead and look at it. It says this, write an equation of the line through 6, negative 2 with a slope of negative 4. Okay, this problem is going to take us roughly 15 seconds. Okay, believe it or not, we'll be able to write the answer and go. This is my point. This is x1, y1. If you remember the formula, it was kind of confusing, okay, because you're probably wondering what all these variables are. But once we plug them in, you'll be like, oh, well, that was pretty easy. So now, what we're going to do is we're just going to plug in our values. Remember, x1, y1 are the point. I've identified those. This is the easy way to remember. You always use the opposite of the point. So if the point is 6, we're going to use negative 6. If the point is negative 2, we're going to use positive 2. So I'm going to start here with y. This here meant the point. And so the y-coordinate there is what? Negative 2, so we're going to use a positive 2. So I'm going to put y plus 2. Now, some of you are wondering what happened to the subtraction sign. When we take the opposite, we are taking care of the subtraction sign. Okay, so equals.
So just if you take, like, since it's y minus negative 2.
We're just taking the opposite of it, yep. Okay, my m is what? Negative 4, yep, the slope. And then now I see an x. Oh, I see this point here, so I'm going to take the opposite of the x-coordinate. And so it's going to be x what? Minus 6. And that is your answer. Okay, so real quick, what I want you to do, I want you to look at this last one, and I want you to try and do that based on how we did the first problem. So you try and do that on your own. You can do it on a scratch sheet of paper. Just something separate, but I want you to just try writing that based on what we just got done doing. Alright, so what do we think it's going to look like? Y minus 3 equals 1/2. There you go, that's it. Point slope form. Alright, so here we go. We've got some expression problems. So what I'm going to go ahead and have you do is I'm going to go ahead and pause this real quick. And then so we should be working right now on finding our slope. Once we find our slope, that should tell us what our answer is going to be. Okay, so let's see what you got. Good. B is the answer. Nice job. Now, for those of you wondering how we would do that, first of all, we found the slope, right? And so when that comes up to play and you got the slope of -2, you end up having y equals -2x plus b. And I know some of you are saying, well, there's no y-intercept. Well, now what we would do to find the y-intercept is plug in one of those points. So I'm going to plug in 7 for y, and I'm going to plug in -2 for x. Now by doing that, you can see that I only have one variable left, and that's the y-intercept. So let's go ahead and go through that. I get 7 to equal 4 plus b. Now in order to solve that, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And so I get 7 minus 4, which is 3. And so then my equation, I'm now going to put in 3 in place of b. And that is my answer. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at another one. Now this one's a little different because notice we have two options for our slope, either -5/2 or -2/5. So you're going to have to go through what I did with plugging in the point at the very final step. So first step, find the slope. Once you find that, plug in the point. There you go. So obviously you can see if you don't get a slope of -5/2 or -2/5, you've probably done something wrong. So you're probably going to have to go back. Okay, so what you do is you've got 2 points, right? So, yeah, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick like -4, because that's my y, and I'm going to subtract -4. So, it's -4 minus, I'm going to divide that by, no, you can see that's fine, how you got to minus the because we're changing it, and divide it by. I'm going to do the same thing with the x's. So what x will be? 2 minus 2 minus 4 then. 2 minus, what's the x in the first one? 2 in the first one. Okay, so that was what we did last time. So we have to change the sign. So -4 plus minus, okay. 2 minus 4 is -5. So now you know that it's going to be right. And we're going to do we have to do this. So now it's going to be y equals -5/2. So plus b.
It's a negative.
Now we're going to
I have to have another
just
negative
put plus b.
So
here we got our answer to be A. So let's review again what we did. First of all, we found the slope, and it looks like we did a great job in finding the slope because we got our answer to be either A or B. Okay, and so when you get your slope to be -5 halves x, let's review what we do. Here's -5 halves x plus b. I don't know what b is, so I'm going to pick a point. I'm either going to pick this point or this point. It doesn't matter which one. Just to show you, did most of you use the first point? I'm going to use the second point just to show you that it works. So y is -4, x is +2. All I need to do now is calculate that. And so I get -4 equals -5 halves times 2. They cancel. It gives me -5 plus b. What I'm going to do now is add 5 to both sides. And so I get b to equal 1. And so if I look here, it's +1, which is right here. So your answer is A. Okay, now we're going to spend a lot of time going over writing equations. So if things still aren't quite clicking, don't worry. All right, and so you know what? I think we're going to go ahead and continue with this tomorrow. What I want you to do, though, is go ahead, if you're taking notes, I want you to go ahead and write this down so that tomorrow we don't have to spend the time writing this down. And tomorrow we're going to pick up with parallel lines and perpendicular lines. So we're going to spend lots of time on writing equations and manipulating them. So parallel lines, one thing you need to get down is that they have equal slopes. Perpendicular lines, slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. And as I said, tomorrow we'll go ahead and continue with this thought. We'll talk a little bit more about parallel and perpendicular. You're going to write some equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. And that's where we'll be at. So today what you can do is get a head start on your assignment. Your assignment is actually, since we didn't get the section finished, your assignment will actually be due Monday, okay, at the start of class. I would highly suggest, though, if you have time, get started on it because you will have an additional assignment tomorrow. So first of all, let's go ahead and go to our assignment page. There you go. Here's pages 87 through 88, number 8 through 32. Now here is a little change in directions on number 8 through 15. On numbers 8 through 15, you may write the equations in whatever form you choose. So they tell you to write them in slope-intercept form. I am saying you can write them in whatever form you want. And so let's go ahead and look at page 87, just so that you understand what I mean. On page 87, if I look at that, on page 87, number 8, it says slope 3 passes through 0, -2. So what form would be very good there? Slope, intercept, because I know 0, -2 is the intercept. So let's look at 9. Slope -1/2 passes through 0, 5. What's good there? Slope, intercept. Let's look at the next one. What's good on number 10? Slope, intercept. What about 11? Slope, intercept. What about 12 through 15? What would be a good form there? Point slope form would be really good on there, 12 through 15. But if you want to use slope intercept form, you can. What I'm telling you on those problems, you can write whatever form you choose to. On 8 through 12 or 8 through 11, you can even use point slope form there. So anyway, keep working on that, and we'll continue tomorrow.